Vanachari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devin saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudiraye. By reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the person Narayana, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Ashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service to the personality of Godhead, whose praise with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. In the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master, open my eyes with the darkness of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him.
There's some issue with the connectivity of laptop, so I'm trying my best.
Okay, so we are reading from Canto 9, Chapter 3, from text 27 to 32.
actually from 18.
18 to, sorry, 18 to 32. 18 to 32. So as the laptop is not working, I will read. Okay, that's great. Yeah.
Text 18. Thereafter, King Saryati, desiring to perform a sacrifice, went to the residence of Chavanya Muni. There he saw, by the side of his daughter, a very beautiful young man, as bright as the sun.
After receiving obeisances from his daughter, the king, instead of offering blessings to her, appeared very displeased and spoke as follows.
O unchaste girl, what is this that you have desired to do? You have cheated the most respectable husband, who is honored by everyone. For I see that because he was old, diseased, and therefore unattractive, you have left his company to accept as your husband this young man, who appears to be a beggar from the street.
O my daughter, you who were born in a respectable family, how have you degraded your consciousness in this way? How is it that you are shamelessly maintaining a paramour? You will thus degrade the dynasties of both your father and your husband to hellish life.
Sukanya, however, being proud of her chastity, smiled upon hearing the rebukes of her father. She smilingly told him, "My dear father, this young man by my side is your actual son-in-law, the great sage, Shivayana,
Shavana.
thanks, who was born in the family of Ritu."
Thus, Sukanya explained how her husband had received the beautiful body of a young man. When the king heard this, he was very surprised, and in great pleasure he embraced his beloved daughter.
Chavanya Muni, by his own prowess, enabled King Sharyati to perform the Somayagna. The Muni offered a full pot of Somaras to the Ashwini Kumaras, although they were unfit to drink it.
King Indra, being perturbed and angry, wanted to kill Shyavana Muni, and therefore he impetuously took up his thunderbolt. But Shyavana Muni, by his powers, paralyzed Indra's arm and held the thunderbolt.
Although the Ashwini Kumaras were only physicians and were therefore excluded from drinking somaras in sacrifices, the demigods agreed to allow them henceforth to drink it.
King Sharyati begot 3 sons named Uttanavargi, Anartha, and Bhuvishana. From Anartha came a son named Revata.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
O Marakrishi, subduer of enemies, this Revata constructed a kingdom known as Vishnusthali in the depths of the ocean. There he lived and ruled such tracts of lands as Anartha, etc. He had 100 very nice sons, of whom the eldest was Kakudmi.
Taking his own daughter, Revati Kakudumi went to Lord Brahma in Brahmaloka, which is transcendental to 3 modes of material nature, and inquired about her husband for her.
When Kakudmi arrived there, Lord Brahma was engaged in hearing musical performances by the Gandharvas and had not a moment to talk with him. Therefore, Kakudmi waited, and at the end of the musical performance, he offered his obeisances to Lord Brahma and thus submitted his long-standing desire.
After hearing his words, Lord Brahma, who is most powerful, laughed loudly and said to Kakudmi, O king, all those whom you may have decided within the core of your heart to accept as a son-in-law have passed away in the course of time.
27 Chaturyugas have already passed. Those upon whom you may have decided are now gone, and so are their sons, grandsons, and other descendants. You cannot even hear about their names.
O king, live here and offer your daughter to Lord Baladeva, who is still present. He is the most powerful, indeed he is the supreme personality of Godhead, whose planetary portion is Lord Vishnu. Your daughter is fit to be given to him in charity.
Lord Baladev is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who one One who hears and chants about him is purified, because he is always the well-wisher of all living entities. He has descended with all his paraphernalia to purify the entire world and lessen its burden.
Read.
Having received this order from Lord Brahma, Kapudni offered obeisances unto him and returned to his own residence. He then saw that his residence was vacant, having been abandoned by his brothers and other relatives, who were living in all directions because of fear of such higher living beings as the Yakshas.
Then after the king gave his most beautiful daughter in charity to the Supreme, the powerful Baldeva, and then retired from worldly life and went back to Badari Kasharma to please Narayana.
Jai. So we'll be reading verse number 32. Tatputra putra nitranam gotra nichana srammahe kalo bhyata strinava chaturyuga vikalpitah tatputra pautra nitranam गोत्राणि च न स्मन्महे कालोभियतस्त्रीणा वा चतुर्युगा विकल्पितः तत्पुत्र पौत्र नप्तॄणां गोत्राणि च न स्मन्महे कालोभियतस्त्रीणा वा चतुर्युगा विकल्पितः
तत्पुत्र पौत्र निपुत्राणां
तत्पुत्र पौत्र निपुत्राणां गोत्राणि च न शृण्महे कालोभियतस्त्रीणा वा चतुर्युगा विकल्पितः तत्पुत्र पौत्र नृत्राणां गोत्राणि च न शृण्महे कालोभियतस्त्रीणा वा चतुर्युगा विकल्पितः तत्पुत्र पौत्र नृत्राणां गोत्राणि च न शृण्महे कालोभियतस्त्रीणा वा चतुर्युगा विकल्पितः तत्पुत्र पौत्र नप्तॄणां गोत्राणि च न शृण्महे कालोभियतस्त्रीणा वा विकल्पितः. Word to word meaning, everyone together. Tat, there, putra of the sons, pautra of the grandsons, naptranam and of the descendants, gotrani the family dynasties, cha also, na not, shrinmahe we do hear of, kalaha time, abhiyataha have passed, three, nava 9, chaturyuga 4 yugas, satya, treta, dwapar and kali. Vikalpitaha, thus measure. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada ki. Translation, everyone together. 27 Chatur Yugas have already passed. Those upon whom you may have decided are now gone, and so are their sons, grandsons, and other descendants. You cannot even hear about their names. And you would like to read the purport?
During Lord Brahma's day, 14 Manus or 1000 Mahayugas passed away. Brahma informed King Kapudmi that 27 Mahayugas, each consisting of the 4 periods Satya, Treta, Dwapar and Kali, had already passed. All the kings and other great personalities born in those yugas had now departed from memory into obscurity. This is the way of time as it moves through past, present and future.
Chai. So, in this chapter, we see about King Sharyati, how he had gone with his daughter to Chavana Muni, and the incident what had happened that her daughter had seen an earthworm, and then she pierced it, and because of that, blood started to ooze out, and that was Chavana Muni actually, and he was very displeased, and the king was feeling not very great about what her daughter had done, and she told the king what she had done, and then the king begged forgiveness to Chavana Muni and wanted and gave her daughter to her, and then the daughter was staying with her, and when days passed by, she used to always make sure that she helps him to do whatever services he's doing and make sure whatever he needs that is being taken care of, and she didn't think that my husband is old or something like that, but Chavana Muni wanted to become a young man so that he can also make sure that uh, her needs are also taken care of. So with the help of Ashwini Kumaras, he told Ashwini Kumaras that I would want to get young. So Ashwini Kumaras, who are the physicians, they took him to a lake, and then they all together, all three of them, took a dip in the bath, and when they came out, they all were young and they look very similar. So Sukanya, who was the wife of Chavana Muni, was not able to recognize who was her husband. But then the Ashwini Kumaras, were very pleased with her chastity, and they told her that this is your husband. And then later on, when King Saryati came again to visit Chavana Muni for the Somaras sacrifice, he saw that his daughter was now currently with a young man. And seeing this, he was very displeased, and he started to tell her that what have you done, and why did you do this? I know that your husband was old, but when you are married to someone, you have your duties to your husband, and you have to make sure that you serve him and not run away with somebody else. But hearing all this, she was very pleased with her chastity, and she told the entire story of how Chavana Muni was able to regain a body of a young man. And in that way, there was the Somra sacrifice which took place, and then the Ashwini Kumaras wanted to drink it, but actually they are not. They are excluded to drink because they are physicians, but the demigods allowed to drink. And then we see that Lord King Indra was very displeased with what was going on, and then he tried to take his thunderbolt and tried to shoot it, but Chavana Muni was very powerful, and he was able to hold the hand of King Indra so that the thunderbolt doesn't get released. And in that way, the sacrifice was successful, and then we see the lineage where he got three sons. Uh, the name of the three sons, I'm not sure. Yeah, it's Uttana, Bharhi, Anartha, and Bhurisena. And then we see the lineage from Ananta came a son Revata, and then Revata constructed a kingdom, and then he ruled the land, and he got 100 very nice sons, who the eldest was Kakudmi. And then from Kakudmi we saw he got a daughter called Revati, and then King Kakudmi wanted to get his daughter married, so he went to Lord Brahma to seek his advice, right? But Lord Brahma, he mentioned, and obviously whenever you go to someone for advice, you have someone in mind to firstly inquire about that person, or how's that person, or maybe someone who the person might have recommendations for. But and Lord Brahma, he could read what names he had in his mind, and he told him that 27 chatur yugas have passed, and like a lot of yugas have passed, so you can see that whatever names you had in your mind, they have already gone, and you cannot even hear about the names. So in this way, yeah.
I had a question. So his daughter, was he also on earth?
His daughter,
No, no, no. She was with him.
She was
she was with him. Yeah, she was with him. Yeah, thanks, Prabhu. So you can see Lord Brahma is mentioning that because from this we what we learn is that life is very short, and we see that one day of Lord Brahma is 4.32 billion years of ours. So according to that, our life is not even just a blink of an eye for Lord Brahma. So that is why we have to make sure that the life we have got, we utilize the most for we utilize it the most in devotional service of the Lord and not waste it, right? Because the body is perishable but the soul is eternal. But we have to make sure that this human form of life which we have got, which is the rarest form of life, and after many billions and billions of lives we have taken, we have got this life. So we have to make sure that we use this life for self realization, and not to again come in this cycle of birth and death. So having this life short, we have to make sure that we utilize it at the most efficient way, and that can be only done if we have somebody to guide us. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 4.32, Tadvadi paripratena pariprashnena sevaya upadakshanshite jnanam jnanina tattvadarshina. So we should inquire from a spiritual master, and we should render service unto him. Then we will get the transcendental knowledge from him, and then the mercy will flow, right? So having serve to the spiritual master, our spiritual progress gets compressed, and we are able to make progress fast, right? So it's very important that we understand the importance of a spiritual master, we understand the importance of guru, and we work towards it. Because if we think that we can do it on our own, there is bad news that you won't be able to do it on your own. Because if you do it on your own, you will be doing a lot of trial and error, and that will take a lot of time. But as you know, this human form of life is very short. If when you now you don't realize, but when you become older and older, when you speak to older devotees, they will tell you that the life went so fast and life is so short, and make sure that you utilize the most of it, and in devotional service as well. So in this way we understand, and we see that examples from Srimad Bhagavatam, that a lot of people had guides to tell them how to proceed in devotional life. We can see the example of Parikshit Maharaj, who went to Sukdev Goswami, and he had only 7 days to live, and just in 7 days he was able to get this knowledge and understand this and go back home, back to Godhead. Similarly, we see the second example of Dhruv Maharaj, where he wanted a kingdom of his own bigger than his own grandfather Brahma, and then he went to the forest, and then he found the guide in the form of Narad Muni, and Narad Muni guided him, and he followed him, and there he was able to. He was just 5 years old, and by his guidance, he was able to get the darshan of the Lord, and he did a lot of austerities for that as well. So we should understand that life is short, and we need to have guides. That is why we need to have guides in our lives who can able to help us steer in the right way, because they have seen it all, and they have done it all. So it's very important to get their guidance and knowledge, as well as Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. They really help us, as well as they really help us, guide us to understand devotional service, like why we have to do, and it helps us strengthen our intelligence. And once we strengthen our intelligence, our faith increases, right? And that is why the value of life is not to be based by the length of how many years you live, but by the wisdom you gain, right? So by this I would like to also mention about, like, if about I have a question for you, that like, why is it easier to form bad habits? If I give you a question, that why has Krishna made it easier to form bad habits? Yeah.
I mean, we've been doing the wrong things for so long, so it's just easier for us because we're habitually, we've been
Right.
converts.
Right, exactly. So, if I have this pen, and if I tilt it like this and I pour this water, and this side is bad habits and this side is good habits. So obviously the water will go over here, right? Because the inclination is there on the bad habits, right? So what do we have to do to make sure that we change our inclination? So the first thing what we have to do, we have to change our inclination. And how we have to do, there's a three-stage process to that. First is to restrict. So when I put something over here, that will restrict the water to go down, right? So that is why similarly in same way we have to restrict, we have to restrict our urges. We get a lot of urges, but we have to understand that restricting the urges, we will make sure that we are doing the right thing. The second thing is to redirect. So now the water is going like this, so we have to redirect it like this, right? So by redirecting, we mean that we have to do sadhana bhakti, which will help us to redirect our inclination towards bhakti. That way we are able to redirect, and the last thing is to reconstruct. So we have to make sure that our reconstruction is like this. And by that by reconstructing means that we have to change our heart. Now this change of heart is a 9-stage process which is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which starts with Shraddha. So the first stage is called the Shraddha, where we gain faith regarding what we are doing, and we have the inclination to do, right? And we have to make sure that by this making the inclination in the right direction, we naturally flow towards Krishna, and then devotional service will be effortless, right? So the first stage is Shraddha. The second stage is
Association.
Yeah, what is it? Sadhu Sangha, right? Sadhu Sangha. The third stage is Bhajan Kriya, that's right. Third stage is Bhajan Kriya. Fourth stage, Anartha Nivritti, that's right. Fifth, Nishtha. Fifth stage is Nishtha. And the sixth stage is Ruchi, that's right. Sixth stage is Ruchi. Seventh stage is Asakti, that's right. Seventh stage is Asaktis. And the eighth stage is Bhava, that's right. And the ninth stage is Prema, that's right. So everybody should know these stages of transformation, because the goal of life is to reach Krishna Prema, right? If you don't know your goal and if you don't know where you are, then it'll be very difficult to reach that goal, right? So that is why we have to be, as a devotee, we have to continuously, regularly be doing analysis on ourselves, like how we are doing, right? So the first two stages is the identity, where we are identifying ourselves, we are trying to understand, and we are just a covered devotee over there, right? And then the next stage is the process, where we have the process of the Anartha Nivritti, and Sadhu Sangha, and Bhajan Kriya and Anartha Nivritti. That is a major part of the process. And the last stage is where we get Krishna. So if I could plot this process in a map, it will be like a mountain like this, right? So the first stage will be down over here, which will be here. Then the second stage will be here. Third will be here. Fourth will be here. Fifth will be at the top. Now, once you reach the fifth stage, which is the conviction, then devotional service becomes like flawless, and it'll be easy for you. And then it'll be just like going down a mountain. So yeah, so Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava and Prema will be very easy to pass through. So what we have to understand, that we have to get that conviction to make sure that we are we are very much determined in devotional service. Because while we are climbing the mountain, it's not only the climb which is difficult, but it is also Maya which is pulling us. That we have to understand, right? So from a covered devotee, we become a casual devotee. From a casual devotee, we become a committed devotee. And then from a committed devotee, we become a confidential devotee. So that is how we have to understand the process, and like how our stages are we going. We have to analyze that which stage are we currently in, how do I go to the next stage, what am I supposed to do to go to the next stage. So that is very important to understand. So in all this, what I have told you, what is important over here is consistency is the key, right? You have to understand. So going back to my example of bad habits, like why we are inclined to bad habits, right? You can ask, like, why can't we not be inclined to good habits earlier as well from starting? The problem is that we are covered with ignorance and passion, right? So we have to remove this cover which we have in ourselves, and then only we will be able to progress. So I'm going to give you 6 pointers that will make you consistent in your devotional service and will help you to go more forward in whatever you are doing. So the first one is sangha. Sangha is basically association. So if I can break down association, that will come down to community and coaching. So by means of community, what I mean is to have close association of sincere practitioners, right? We mentioned about birds of a feather flock together. So you have, whenever you are together with sincere practitioners, you get inspired from them, you learn from them, and you want to be like them. So that is why we should discuss how are we doing in a devotional service, what are we reading, what are we doing something great, how many shlokas are we learning, and then in that way you can also get inspired to learn more shlokas, right? And second thing comes is coaching. So it's very important that we have a coach in our life who can guide us, who we can be accountable to, and who can be ready to give us feedback, and we have the relationship of love and trust. Because whatever because when you are accountable, then you are you can measure yourself where you are. And if you're not accountable, then it becomes very difficult, right? As I mentioned earlier in the class as well, we need a guide. So specifically over here as well, we need a personal guide who can really help us to understand our faults and how we can get to the right direction. So that is about sangha. So the second point I would like to mention about is swadharma. So Swadharma mentioned is about how you engage in your lifestyle, and you make sure that what suits your nature is that you have a lifestyle which suits your nature. And Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita that to not to imitate somebody else's lifestyle or duties, because that will make it natural. And if it is natural to your behavior and everything, then it becomes very easy to become consistent, right? Now I'm like, everyone over here is unique, we have to understand that, and I cannot become like somebody else, right? If somebody plays good mridanga, I might not be able to get better than be like him, but I can get inspired by him. That should be our motto, to not be like him, because if I try to be like Jay Prabhu, to play like mridanga, I will be disappointed, right? Because he has like so many years of practice and everything, and catching up with him, because when I'll be practicing to reach him, he might have already practiced more and reached a different level. So my goal should not be to reach, be like him, but to get inspired by him, and to play good mridanga. That should be my motto. So that also mentions about the varna and ashram. Varna is occupation, and ashrama is the stage of life which you are in, right? So you have to make sure that you are in the right stage of life, like brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyasi, as well as the varnas. Like there are like 4 varnas, like the brahmanas, vaishya, satriyas, and shudras. So you have to understand what your nature is, and accordingly be like that. So the third point which I would like to mention, yeah.
Question on the second is, how do we know our swadharma? Like, if I were to think about it, I would not know what kind of lifestyle would suit me, or
right.
So how do I know?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So that can answer by the first point which I had mentioned about coaching, right? When you have a personal guide, you can discuss it with him or her and tell them about tell them about yourself, what do you like, what do you dislike, and they can probably help you what is your swadharma, right? They can guide you, because to answer that question, I cannot just simply tell you that, oh, Dinal, I think you are good at this. No, first I have to analyze, like, what do you like, what do you dislike, what are your traits, what is your nature, what is your behavior, and then you can come to that conclusion. Yeah, traits.
Not traits.
Traits. Yeah. Yeah, so that way you can understand what is your swadharma. And the third point which I like to mention is the shastra. So scriptures, reading scriptures is very important for us to understand, because scriptures help us to strengthen our intelligence. And what is happening currently right now is that the mind and emotions have overpowered the intelligence. We know what is right, but we are not able to do the right thing because we don't have the conviction to do that. And that conviction will only come by reading the scriptures. So when we read about different devotees and what the pastimes of the devotees and what all has happened, that gains a strong that gets us our intelligence strong, and then we can overpower our emotions and the mind, basically, because right, the mind is overpowering us every time, and the mind never gets old. It's always trying to overpower you and trying to gauge you and not to do the right thing. But by strong intelligence you can overpower the mind as well, right? And in that way it will help you maintain the spiritual journey. So very important is to read the shastras. The fourth point which I like to mention is the swasthya. Swasthya basically is having a good health in your life, because if you don't have a good health, then it becomes very difficult to do whatever you want to do devotional service as well. And by meaning of good health, I mean physical as well as mental. So you can do pranayama, yoga, to make sure that you are physically, you have a physical good body. And by mental health, you can have good emotional conversations with people around you, and make sure that if there are any problems, you discuss it and make sure that you are able to have a good mental health, basically. And Prabhupada also mentioned that our first priority should be good health, and then comes sadhana, and then seva, right? So without good health you won't be able to do anything. So the three things which basically restrict someone or to do something is basically sickness, sense gratification, and struggle. So these three things we have to make sure that we don't. So sickness is basically the health I was talking about, right? Sickness, struggle, and sense gratification. So we have to make sure that we overpower these things so as to make sure that we are doing good in our devotional service. The fifth point I would like to mention is about service. So why is service important? Because service helps us to get the mercy, right? When we do selfless service, Krishna gets pleased with us, and then he gives us his mercy to us. And with that mercy, we can grow in our spiritual progress. So it's very important that we get this mercy through Krishna by doing service. And service can be in various different forms, like going for sankirtan, washing the pots, cutting veggies, and having various preaching programs, and making sure, going and Govindas, distributing prasadam to everyone. That is also very important. So we should make sure that we engage in different types of services, and deity worship, that is also a good type of service. We engage in different types of services because Krishna gets very pleased. And because what we have right now is, if we give it to others, then we will get pleased, and also Krishna will be pleased, right? And if we give it to somebody, then Krishna will give us more. That is how we should see it, right? Because somebody also has given us this Krishna consciousness and got us to it, right? So it's our duty to make sure that we share this with others as well, and they also get this knowledge. because now having this knowledge we understand how this knowledge is very important for everyone and each of everyone in this whole world, right? And we that is our own goal. This is our mission, that to make sure that we preach this to everyone. So that is about seva. And the last point I would like to talk about is sattva. Sattva is basically, what you eat, the activities which you do at the time of your day, your lifestyle. So that is very important, to get to sattva gun. And as I had mentioned that, mostly we are covered by rajogun and tamogun, which is the ignorance and passion. So Prabhupada has, and Krishna also has given us from the 700 verses in Bhagavad Gita, 100 verses speak about the modes of nature, material modes of nature. So it's very important that we understand this material modes of nature, and how they are being, whatever activities we are doing, they are, also there, and to understand how we can get out of that. So it's very important. So the 6 pointers which I mentioned about, the first one was Sangha. That's right. First is Sangha is association. The second point is Swadharma. That's right. Swadharma. Third point, Scripture. Shastra. Shastra is the scriptures. Fourth point, Swastha. Yes, that's right. Swastha is basically health. Fifth point, Seva. Seva is whatever service you do, devotional service. Yeah. And the last point is Sattva, right? That's right. We have to make sure that we get to the Sattva gun, which is the topmost, gun of all the three guns, material modes of nature, which are governing us. So it's very important to understand this consistency, and we have to build this consistency, because going back to the first point, right? Life is short. So if we don't have this consistency, we will fall down in our track, and then we won't be able to reach our goal, our milestone, which we have, determined for our life, and we don't have endless time to reach that goal. We have a specific target. Our end dates are already been written. That's the only thing that we don't know it. But when we are born, our end date is already fixed. So we have to understand that we have less than 100 years of remaining, and from that, already we have lived 20, 25 years, 30 years of our life. So we have only very little life, less more remaining. So make sure that we utilize the most of it. And that is what I would like to mention about today, the consistency. And today is also a very special day. Today is the disappearance day of Jayananda Prabhu. So Jayananda Prabhu is a very exemplified devotee in bhakti, where we can see from start to finish. And Jayananda Prabhu, starting from his early days, he was actually a mechanical engineering, young, handsome boy, studied mechanical engineering from Ohio State University, and he was like, and he used to be very depressed and dissatisfied with life, and that is why he was not able to be in the upper middle class where his all his peers were. And he ended up driving cabs in San Francisco, and that is where he saw a small article about Srila Prabhupada, where he was trying to preach about chanting. And after seeing that article, he used to regularly attend the classes, and come in the morning, attend the classes. He sometimes he was used to be the only student in the class. He was so much inspired, and he wanted to get this knowledge. He was searching for searching for knowledge and searching for answers for his life, and he couldn't get it. And that is why he came to, and he was attracted to Krishna consciousness when he got this knowledge. And he used to wake up early, chant his rounds, do his seva, eat prasadam, and go and then sell incense sticks for the temple, so as to get money for the temple. And Jayanand Prabhu, he used to worship prasadam. He used to make sure that prasadam doesn't get wasted, and even if one grain of prasadam used to be fallen down anywhere, he used to just take it. And he used to cook prasadam, offer prasadam, distribute prasadam. He really liked prasadam a lot. And one of his most prominent quality was humility. and the people who were around him knew that if you want to have his company, you have to make sure that you don't praise him a lot, because he used to not like devotees praising him a lot. And what he also exemplified is his service attitude. So he was expert at everything he used to do, like cooking, deity worship, going out for sankirtan, distributing prasadam. He was like very good in all of these services, and also very good at engaging others in services, right? And he used to do menial services. Like, he used to not feel very lower down, that he used to pick up the garbage as well in the temple. And once a boy had come to help him to help him remove the garbage from the trash cans, and then the boy thought that, oh, the person who is removing the garbage is so much blissful, then imagine how the devotees in the temple might be. So he was so humble, and he used to not think that, oh, this is small service, this is big service. And he had a very short life. He came to Krishna consciousness around 1967, and in 1977 he had got cancer, so he could only stay. He was here till 38 years old. He got a lymph and blood cancer, and because of that, and Prabhupada was there when he had got this cancer. And Prabhupada himself announced that we will be, having a festival of disappearance of such a devotee. This was the first time that Prabhupada himself endorsed, celebrating disappearance day of a devotee, where we usually only celebrate the disappearance days of acharyas. Now we also have disappearance days of a lot of Maharajas, but that time, in early in Krishna consciousness, we used to not have a disappearance day of any other devotees. But Jayanand Prabhu was very exemplary, and he was very nice. He was free. He used to not find faults in anybody else. He used to not criticize others about whatever misdoings or wrong they used to do. And he was very materially renounced, that whatever, he used to single-handedly drive the cab for 12 to 14 hours and get the money to run the temple earlier in the days. And then when he had got money for his own treatment, he gave that money for the Rath Yatra in Los Angeles. And he used to engage all the hippies and people who were not devotees to in the Rath Yatra, in the making the carts for 10 to 14 hours. That is not, it's not very easy to have people, devotees work for so many long hours. And then after Yatra, he used to make a pie or a cake for each and every devotee who used to help him in the Rath Yatra. And he used to rise. He used to be the last one to sleep and the first one to rise up. So he used to take very little sleep. And when the Rath Yatra used to approach nearer, he used to sleep even less for 3 hours. And when you used to see him doing service, you wouldn't even know that he used to be so energetic during his services, that you won't be able to understand that he slept very less hours. And in that way, we see that even during his treatment was going on, even when he was in the hospital bed, he was preaching, and he was telling to do this, do that, and making sure everything is going about. He used to single-handedly do all of the services, and he was one of the youngest presidents as well at San Francisco. And it's a great honor to have a devotee in our Krishna consciousness in ISKCON. And we should get inspired and make sure that we also strive to, if not be like him, but to be, get inspired and to do service and make sure that we progress in devotional service. So yeah, that is it about it. If any questions. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, Prabhu, you had a question?
Thank you for the wonderful classroom. So you mentioned 3 things that are impediments for bhakti: sickness, purpose, and sensual acquisition. Do I understand sickness and sense gratification? Struggle, if you can elaborate more on how struggle is an impediment.
Right. So, struggle, if I say, is an impediment that um, you know that you have to do devotional service. Like you are liking doing devotion. You like doing devotional service. But the struggle is that we have a material life as well, right? And we have to make sure that we are working towards a material life as well. So that is a struggle to have a balance between both our material life and our spiritual life. If we had an option, we would obviously choose material life, right? We would obviously choose to do devotional service 24 hours a day. But being in this material world, we have obligations as well, right? So we have to make sure that to balance it, and that balance is a struggle. That is what is the struggle to maintain that, because we are more inclined towards devotional service, progress in spirituality, but we have to make sure that our spiritual life is also, progressing and improving. So that is the struggle which we have to, go about and understand and make sure that we are able to balance that as well.
Thank you, Guru.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.